that would then install the Biden administration, which is now extended until March 31, and I'm sure it'll be extended after that. The question is whether it applies to, it's designed to apply to people where the sole reason that you're being evicted is you can't afford to pay the rent. In your case, and this is, I guess they're styling the eviction that they want to move in. And the answer is there's city eviction protection, and there's federal as well, and I believe there's state. And I don't know if any one of those three would help you. And I don't know whether this is, one can imagine also circumstances where a landlord says they want to move in, but they're really just using that as an excuse to kick you out, and then they're going to rent it to somebody else. And if it's that kind of fraudulent situation, that is certainly something that the law should protect you from. What I want to do at this point, and you can contact our office. We'll try to figure out whether the federal eviction protection applies when the landlord wants to move in. I'm guessing that it does, just because I don't think we have an exception for that circumstance. But I can't, off the top of my head, say I'm sure. You can reach us at 818-501-9200 and talk to my legal counsel, Carolina Kraywak, and she'll get you an answer in a day or two. I do want to discuss a little bit what is being suggested in the Biden proposal, a bill that I support. It is to take the stimulus up to $2,000 by adding $1,400, and that's per adult and per child. It is $20 billion more for the vaccination program, $50 billion more on testing and contact tracing, $350 billion for something that the December bill did not do, and that is provide aid to state and local governments. Keep in mind that there is cutbacks of the LAPD and perhaps of fire and other critical services that the LA City provides that are being caused because there's less revenue coming into the city. There's not a lot of sales tax coming out of the average diner in the San Fernando Valley. And it's interesting, people talk about defunding the police, but by far the most significant defunding police that's happening nationwide is because the cities and counties don't have revenue, and we haven't been able to get Republicans to vote to replace that revenue with federal aid. And that is across the country, leading to thousands and thousands of police officers and sheriff's deputies being laid off. We can discuss what are the best ways to provide for public safety in LA. I rely on the city government to figure out the best way to do that. And if this or that function should be police or whether money should be shifted to other ways to deal with public safety and to deal with the homeless, et cetera, that's best decided on a local level. But to see police defunded, not because the local government feels it has a better way to deal with the issues that police deal with, but instead because the revenue is not being replaced by federal efforts is just the wrong way to go. Unemployment insurance, I remember earlier I said that was extended through mid-March at $300 extra by the bill we passed in December. The Biden proposal raises that to $400 and extends it through the end of September. There's also language in the bill to increase the minimum wage, but the California minimum wage would still be higher anyway, so that's much greater interest in Arkansas than it is in California. The bill provides to increase the child care credit from $2,000 to up to $3,000, even $3,600 for children 6 and under, and provides $170 billion to help the schools open while providing rental assistance to low-income households. And the thing is that definition. I know that you asked a question about being evicted, but this definition of low-income household probably doesn't apply to you. So there's a description of what's in Biden's have the results of the last question. Trump, very favorable, 6%. Favorable, 4%. Mixed, 4%. Somewhat unfavorable, 4%. Very unfavorable, 82%. Let's see. Let's take another question.
Okay, Congressman, Roma from West Hills has a vaccine question. Roma?
Yes. Hi. Yeah, hi. This question is for Dr. Goldman. And first of all, Mr. Sherman, thank you so much for holding these town halls. I really do appreciate that you're willing to listen to and respond to your constituents. Dr. Goldman.
And look, I would have them more often, but they're actually pretty expensive to put on. It's hard to reach tens of thousands of people. Go on.
I completely understand, spending half my life on Teams meetings. I'm a molecular biologist, and I'm a medical writer for one of the world's largest in vitro diagnostics medical companies. And in that position, I've been responsible for creating quite a bit of literature and education and published articles on the inflammatory response of COVID-19. So the statistics I'm about to give you are coming from a place of knowledge. I'm concerned that the CDC recommendation has changed for the groupings of 1B. Previously, it included people with comorbidities, especially multiple comorbidities, and many of these, especially things like chronic kidney disease, have a much higher risk of severe disease and hospitalization than simply being a healthy 65 to 75-year-old. And yet, these classes have been taken out of 1B and moved back to 1C. I suspect it's a political move. But I'd like to know if they're going to be reinstated. I mean, someone with CKD has a 4.5 times risk of severe disease. Someone with multiple 3 or more comorbidities has a 5 times risk. Healthy 65 to 75-year-old has a 2.5 times risk. That's not insignificant, but it still isn't going to hit the population that's at greater risk. And a lot of that population is going to overlap with the 65-year-olds. So if you could address that, please, I'd really appreciate it.
I'll address it only from a non-medical perspective, and that is to say that it is a lot easier in the process to verify that somebody's over 65 or over 75 than it is to verify and define exactly what comorbidity should put you in Group 1B. And there are so many different comorbidities, so many different levels of comorbidities, and so many different levels of proof that you have a comorbidity. That being the case, I think you make a very strong argument that a lot of comorbidities are far more significant than reaching age 65. But I'm going to turn this over to somebody who actually understands medicine. Dr. Goldman?
Yes, thank you. And I agree with you as well that it would be great if we could go after those comorbidities first. One of the prices we pay for not having a national health system of any kind is that it's actually really hard to pull from the population those who clearly have those comorbidities. Some of us are enrolled in great health care plans where they have great electronic health records about us, and they could call us in, although they're not really set up to do that at this point. And many other people who are at very high risk are not. And in fact, a lot of the people who are at the highest risk, as you probably are well aware, both have comorbidities, and they're minorities, and they're poorer, and they're older, and they may even be working through this thing. And so I think that they're trying to not let the perfect be the enemy of the good by setting up a priority group that's very hard for us to get to fairly and equitably across the whole country. Although ideally, that's exactly what you're suggesting is exactly what we'd be able to do. And in fact, some countries like Israel are doing it that way.
Doctor, thank you. We've got another survey question. Survey question C is not so much a policy question as a way for me to understand how effective they've administered things. This question C is, have you actually received your second stimulus payment, presumably electronically? That's the $600 a person. We've talked about how that's too small an amount, but the question is, have you received it? is no, but perhaps it's because our income is over $100,000 single, $200,000 joint, or roughly those amounts. So number 3 is no, but maybe it's because I'm not eligible. And number 4 is unsure. So have you actually received your $600 payment? 1 is yes, 2 is no, and you're and you don't know why you don't get it. Number 3 is no, but your income may put you too high a level. And 4 is you're unsure. Okay, let's take one more question. We are now into overtime here.
Okay, Congressman, we have Florence from Sherman Oaks has 2 questions. One about airport noise, one about vaccines. Florence, if I can ask you to keep them brief, you are on.
And for everybody else, and I realize we're really at the end, 1 question per dialer, but Florence will get to. Go ahead.
Hi, Brad. Thank you so much for being with us and for us. You are so appreciated. And I love you. So, okay, here's my question. I live very close to the junction of the 405 and the 101. There has been a tremendous increase in low-flying air traffic, whether it's police, whether it's military, or whether it's some other form. And it's very disconcerting because it's gotten worse and escalators a lot. And now I'm seeing signs pop up around my neighborhood saying, saveourskiesla.org. So I will investigate that, but I don't know what you might be able to do about that. That's my first question. Second question is, I've heard with the second shot of the vaccine that there may be some side effects, one of them being it looks like the flu. What can Dr. Goldman say about that? Did we have a third question first?
We'll go to Dr. Goldman first, and then I'll talk a little bit about airport noise.
Hi, yes. So the second shot, you might get more of a response than the first, simply because from the first shot, you're getting a little bit of immunity. And so the second one, which is amplifying that immunity, I would expect, you might have more redness, soreness, and you could have a few flu-like symptoms. It's not like having COVID, but it certainly is true that you can have systemic symptoms with the immunization.
And to focus on airport noise, there isn't much political appetite for limiting police and military, except to tell the police, please remember why you protect and serve. Please don't destroy the quality of life. Obviously, it's hard to come up with a hard and fast rule there. The military flights, I would need to check that out. I haven't heard that as a major complaint. And of course, if you're at the intersection of the 101 and 405, we're getting more complaints as you move further east and are closer to the takeoff of the jets from Burbank Airport. And that is where we have got to get away from this next gen that has concentrated the flights, particularly over homes in and near Studio City. The problem we have is that the FAA is kind of a captive of the airline industry. We have come close to passing legislation and have lost on the floor, but we're getting closer each time. And then finally, and perhaps most likely to be of immediate success, is LA City Attorney Mike Feuer's lawsuit, which I strongly support. The problem is that every plane leaving Burbank is being routed over a particular route that goes over the southeast San Fernando Valley. And you don't have to always route planes on that path. You should disperse the noise among all the communities and of course require that even if it means a little bit more fuel is burned, that those planes climb. Clearly, by the time they get to the 101-405, Burbank planes should be high enough to not be as big a problem in your area as they are further east. So, do you know whether the planes you're talking about are coming from Burbank or Van Nuys Airport, or are you really mostly focused on the police aircraft or on helicopters?
Congressman, I had to load up the next questioner, so unfortunately, I lost the last caller.
Oh. Well, I hope that was a good response, and I'm sorry we didn't get her follow-up information. But I'm able to hear over the airport noise what a big problem airport noise is for those who live in the flight path of either the Van Nuys or the Burbank Airport. We will go on to one final question.
Okay, Congressman, we have a question from David from Studio City. David, you're on.
David's also in the flight path. Go ahead.
I am in that flight path and have been here for 40 years. It's very frustrating. Thank you, Congressman, for taking my call. Thank you for your support of the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act in the last Congress. I've met with you in your office and with Michelle and your other people before. One, I wanted to add, I'm hoping that you will re-up your co-sponsorship of whatever the current bill number is for the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act.
The answer is I can't imagine that I won't.
Okay.
I certainly
we're counting on that.
I'll make the commitment. If they haven't changed the bill, I will continue to support it and co-sponsor it. And if they have changed the bill, I got to read the changes before I make a definitive commitment. Of course. But I can't imagine I won't be on it. Go ahead.
What I guess I appreciate your support, and I work with the Citizens Climate Lobby. I guess my feeling is that we've gone through the pandemic this past year, and my understanding of the science of climate change is that the pandemic is going to be like a scratch on your arm compared to what's going to happen as the climate continues to go south. It's going to affect the economy, everything. What do we do to increase the urgency of getting some real federal action on climate change? I know the president is now at least amenable to doing something about it, but the carbon tax seems to be the best first step. What do we do to make this, get this in front of the Congress this year?
Well, the single biggest thing we can do is elect Joe Biden as opposed to Donald Trump, President of the United States. But that is not sufficient by itself.
No.
We are going to do what I'd like to see us do. I think we will pass good legislation in the House. I mentioned earlier that the most decisive vote in the Senate is Joe Manchin. He represents West Virginia. He's pro-coal. And it is going to be very hard to get what I'd like. I can see us getting a quarter of what I'd like to see passed this year, but I can't tell you that in such a closely divided Senate that we could do better than that. There's a lot we can do at the executive level, and Biden has already done that with XL Keystone and steps on federal land, et cetera. So I think that this year, by the end of this year, we will be doing a quarter of what we should do, or we'll move from where we are now 25% in the direction of what we should be doing. And I wish I could give you a better report. I think the Senate may become significantly more Democratic in 2022. that was before January 6th. And we could spend a lot of time talking about what happened January 6th, but it certainly was not good for the Republican Party. And so we may indeed get a better Congress 2 years from now than we have now. Even the Congress we have now will make some progress. I will continue to support the carbon tax bill that you mentioned, as well as the Green New Deal, and we'll make some progress this year. We may make more progress in the next Congress. And look, this rejoining the Paris Climate Accords, I think, will accomplish a lot in that it will help move the whole world in the right direction. With the United States committed to doing the right thing, the rest of the world will move in the right direction. So I agree with you. We have got to address climate change, and I wish I could tell you that I was confident that we would have all of the good policies adopted this year, but we'll get there. Folks, if I go more than another 2 minutes, they're going to charge us a lot more for this call. So I'm going to have to end the call now. You're going to soon hear a recording. You can please leave your email address. Even if I have your email address, I need you to leave your email address, which will give us permission to send you emails without a whole bureaucratic process that we would otherwise have to go through. And we'll, of course, inform you of our next town hall. You can leave on the voicemail any question that you have. You can also go at any time to bradsherman.house.gov for information about our next town hall, or to leave a comment for me, or to get information. I want to thank you for spending the last hour and 12 minutes with us. I especially want to thank Dr. Lynn Goldman for once again spending her time with us and giving us her epidemiologic or medical advice and input. And I look forward to keeping in touch with everyone in the San Fernando Valley. This is Brad Sherman. Goodbye.